I wrote this book, and I could read different sections. I'm not sure. I guess I've already selected one now. So, obviously, three girls. These three girls grow up, and they're about 12 years old. Different things start happening, and pretty bad things start happening. One of the girls' father dies, and she starts working as a servant. Another girl also starts working as a servant, and they're getting some pretty bad treatment sometimes, and things are pretty tough. So then I came to this one chapter, and I thought I just want to kind of change directions. I like to digress a lot. I get started on one thing, and then I just get going on something else. So I had a whole chapter. I thought I was going to digress, and it's chapter 17. So I think it kind of makes sense on its own. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's pretty serious. It gets pretty serious. And, we'll see. I'll read a couple of pages and then, it's kind of probably a bit of a downer. I'll probably be still kind of trying to laugh because that's how I handle it. So anyway, it's called Chapter 17, Khosrow, the Incredible Disappearing Boy. There are so many other characters who come and go, so many stories that appear and disappear in my ball of narration and in my life that they all simply cannot be included in one novel. Though they are really distractions and redundancies, helping me in no way express the story of the three girls, my sole reason for being as a narrator in this fiction, that is, I still feel that I must complement or supplement or cement this story by talking about one of the boys. To give at least a counter chapter to the male side, lest someone call me a feminist, or masculinist, or misogynist, or sexist. For that purpose, I will not choose the fathers or the bosses or the bus drivers, but rather a younger brother. In this case, Khalida's next of kin, and Khalida is one of the three girls. Khosrow, a foul-mouthed, independent young boy in the image of his father. Both parents viewed him as the next breadwinner and heir to whatever legacy could be scraped together. Yet, as you hopefully remember, we left Khalida's father in a tight spot, looking his creditor in the eye and not liking the twinkle present there. In fact, it was Khalida's good fortune that she left on that bus, because Rafi, who's the moneylender, had decided that Akhtar was no longer capable of earning money or repaying his debt, so that another solution would have to be devised to return the money. This chapter begins with Akhtar and Rafi, but in the end, they will be quite out of sight. Bring your daughter to Farouk's shop this evening, and we'll discuss your loan. My daughter? Khalida, isn't it? What, are you trying to be funny? No, it's just, she's in Dhaka now, working somewhere. Working. So where's the money? It's not much. It just gets her out of the house. You understand. She's really a nuisance. And Rafi was shaking his head in quiet disapproval. Your other daughter is too young, isn't she? She can work. She works for her mother. How old is she? 5 or 6. No, that's too young. Rafi thought for a minute. What about your eldest son? How old is he? A year younger than Khalida, 9 years. Okay, bring him around. After evening prayers, now go. That evening, Akhtar brought Khosrow with him, without saying a word to his wife. He often asked his son to join him on different evenings, to visit people, or to go round up some kind of work, so Khosrow thought nothing of it. They met Rafi at a junk shop 500 meters from the edge of the slum, a square, open-faced room that was cluttered with plastic bags, bottles, metal strips, rags, broken glass, and whatever else could be gathered in the surrounding area. It was Rafi's regular spot in the evenings, where he would gather with 1 or 2 local men and drink local-made date juice, which had a little kick to it. That evening there were 5 of them, seated in the small room. The owner was Rafi's cousin Farouk, and he greeted Akhtar with a cold silence that made Akhtar nervous. There was some bad history between them all, and Akhtar expected nothing good to come from this meeting. Is this your son? One of the workers laughed. Little beggar. Akhtar noticed that a 6th man Rafi's lead ruffian, Omar, was seated quietly in the back corner. He had once beaten Akhtar and threatened to break his arm before Rafi called him off. He was an emotionless machine as far as Akhtar knew, and Akhtar feared his every movement. Rafi moved forward and placed his hand on Khosrow's shoulder. "Do you want to work for me?" he said calmly. "Your father is a thief and liar. What about you?" Khosrow had wanted to say he was ready to work, but when he heard his father accused, he wasn't sure how to continue. "I'll work," he said after a moment's hesitation. "What can you do?" Rafi asked. "Anything." Two or three of the men chuckled, and Omar rose from his seat in the back. "I like this boy," Rafi said, gripping his shoulder and giving him a shake. "But how can you earn money? Your father owes me 5,000 daca. Do you know how to get that much money?" Khosrow couldn't answer. He had no idea how to make money, other than taking odd jobs and running errands for people like Rafi, who already had some money. "Can you do it in 1 year?" "That's how long I've been giving money to your father. He's borrowed and spent more than his share, and I'm sure he'll borrow more." "Where does his money come from? Allah?" The men laughed again, except Omar, who never laughed. "I don't know what kind of job I can give you to make that much money," Rafi continued, looking sour, turning his eyebrows into a deep V across his forehead. "No one makes 5,000 in a year around here. You have to go to the city. You have to beg and maybe steal. Can you do that?" Before Khosrow could think of an answer, Rafi continued, "I think you can, but I doubt I can trust you. If I send you to Dhaka, you're likely to run away. And then what? You'll leave your father, poor and old, to settle his debts with me? Your father's worthless. He couldn't even beg his way to 50 daca. But you are young. People have sympathy for you. They will give you money. I know it. You have a sad, thin face." "I can do it," Khosrow said. Rafi turned to Akhtar and twisted his mouth into a grim smirk. "If he can earn money, you are free. You might even earn some extra income. What do you say?" Akhtar looked to his son, his pride and future hope. He could sense that Rafi was not telling him something. Not telling him everything. Something was going on, but he couldn't raise the courage to ask what. He knew that if he refused Rafi, probably Omar would take it out in his blood. And then he would still take his son as payment. He gave a deep sigh and tilted his head in acknowledgement. "Brother Rafi, how can I say no to you? You have saved my life." Rafi smiled. "Go, I'll send your son to you before he leaves." Akhtar looked at his son for a few minutes. As his son looked at him in bewilderment, none of them could tell what was about to happen, but they knew that the boy's life would never be the same. Following Rafi's command, Akhtar turned and walked from the hut. After his father left, Khosrow was surprised by the treatment he received. It was as if they were celebrating some event. They shared the date juice wine with him, daring him to gulp down one glass after another. Before long, his eyes were drooping. It's my daughter. And then they were helping him settle in a chair near the corner. He was unconscious when suddenly he felt a sharp pain in his leg and woke with a scream. As his eyes flew open, he saw blood, and looking down, he saw that his pajamas had been removed. But even worse, his right leg had been severed and was laying a few inches from his body. For a moment, he shuddered in agony, and then his mind went blank. He was so deep in shock that he did not even feel it when he chopped off his other leg just below the hip.